Miller, thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me on, as always, Rosemary.
You're hoping to reduce the number of temporary residents in Canada by almost 20% in 3 years. What categories will you target in particular in that group?
That's a really important question, Rosemary. Temporary people that are here temporarily form about 6.2% of the current population. That's something that has jumped in the last few years. It is people that have fled Russian aggression in Ukraine, so 300,000 Ukrainians. It's people on postgraduate work permits. It's international students. It's people that are working in post-production film in downtown Montreal, as well as temporary foreign workers in the agricultural or seafood transformation sector. So it's a wide segment of people that are here that make our economy what it is. And it is something that we need to get a grip on. It has grown to a level that is higher than it has ever been. And we need to take steps as the federal government to reduce that. We are signaling 20%, but we can't do it alone. It's something that provinces know their labor forces. We need to get together with them and make sure that we are working together so that we're not causing damage to the economy while getting this important part of the population that is growing under control. Why? Yeah. We know from the studies that economists have produced that impacts the cost of shelter, and making sure that we are signaling to the market, signaling to economists, signaling to Canadians that this is something that we need to do responsibly, I think is very important. So part of the announcement that I made yesterday was to make sure that temporary people that are here temporarily form part of our levels plan that I'm statutorily obligated to report to Parliament on every year, which is an important change to what we've been doing normally, which is just report on people that are our levels for permanent residency. So a couple big changes, but they are ones that will need to be done in partnership with provinces who do have that responsibility to tell us what they need, tell us what their needs are for the economy, and be responsible for the people that are in Canada as well as we are.
You said at the press conference when you made this announcement that Canada, like other countries, has become addicted to temporary foreign workers. Why do you say that, and how do you mitigate for that? Because as you know, one of the problems with temporary foreign workers is that Canadians don't want to do that work. And so people will have to reach out to temporary foreign workers in order to make sure there's enough in the labor force.
Well, one, that's true, and I wouldn't exaggerate that portrayal. There are certain sectors of the economy, and the agricultural sector in particular, and the areas that my colleague Randy Boissonneau administers in labor market impact assessments that allow for that sort of lower wage aspect of work in the economy. Very important, particularly in an environment of food inflation, to make sure we have those workers here. But that isn't the entirety of the picture. It's students on work permits. It's people that are seeking asylum here in Canada, and it's very highly specialized people that are here that we can't train in here in Canada or don't have sufficient skills to train. So it's a broader bucket than that, but certainly it is something, yes, we have become addicted to. The numbers betray that. And it's something I think we know and acknowledge has had an impact on affordability and notably the cost of shelter. And it's something I think we owe it to ourselves and owe it to Canadians to take a second look at as the labor market constricts a bit.
You said you have to sit down and discuss the targets with the provinces. How flexible are you to any concerns they might have? Because as you said, this is a wide variety of people that fall under this rubric, and some provinces might have different needs than others.
I would say very flexible, willing to look at a blank slate to see where the labor needs are. There's two aspects to this, Rosemary: the influx, the people that come in here, but also the output or the transition into permanent residency. We've given a number of responsibilities to provinces to transition or to have provincial nominee programs to transition the people that they choose and select to be part of the economy or to be Canadians, permanent residents. We're asking provinces to take a little more responsibility with the labor force that exists in their provinces in order to perhaps offer some transition to permanent residency with the nominee programs that they have and are quite proud of and frankly advocate for more of. And so this will be a discussion with us in terms of the federal programs that we administer, and there's a bucket load of them, and the provincial programs that are administered by provinces in order to make sure that there's also an outflow of temporary residents to the permanent residence path and ultimately Canadian citizenship, so we aren't just bringing people in and stranding them here with no hope of becoming permanent residency. So that's another aspect of this that needs to be discussed in private, but also discussed with Canadians.
I want to ask you a couple questions about the ongoing situation in Gaza. The program in place that you put in place to try and get Canadians' extended family out of Gaza has not worked. I think you would agree with that assessment. 14 people, I think, have managed to get out of the region. You yourself called the program a failure. Where does the failure lie? What are you saying to? Is it Israel? Is it Egypt? Where is the problem that you cannot seem to unblock this?
Well, Rosemary, for all our efforts, we do not control the Rafah gates, which is the main point of egress for people fleeing humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. It is administered by COGAT and Egyptian authorities, so the Israeli Minister of Defense and Egypt. There's some coordination that goes on when we try to get people out. We certainly had to do so in getting Canadians and permanent residents out. And we have not had the success of convincing those authorities that these programs were ones where we could successfully get the hundreds of names out that we've put forward to them after having done our initial triage for people that will then have to get into the Cairo to do additional biometrics and then come to Canada.
But why have you not been able to convince them? Like, what is the problem when you say these are people who have relatives in Canada, we want them to get out, we are the Canadian government, why can't you allow this? Like, where is the block, I guess?
Well, certainly I'm not going to speak for them, and I'm not going to speak too much publicly about the diplomatic efforts that are ongoing, specifically out of concern for the people that we are trying to extract from Gaza. But clearly there are differences of views as to whether those people are entitled to eventually come to Canada. They are not Canadian. They are not Canadian permanent residents. And so that is the discussion that is ongoing. There has been a concern, obviously, with all countries in getting their own residents out, getting permanent residents out, getting aid workers out. And then those that are getting out through their own means, often through smuggling, with people taking thousands of dollars per head for people to get out. And this is unconscionable. This was a program that was set up. It is unique compared to other countries quite quickly in December. It's one where we have a number of people that have gotten a step forward. 900 people have applications, and we have several hundred numbers of people on a list waiting to get out, but we have had no success up to now, which is why I've characterized it the way I have. It doesn't prevent us from trying and continuing to try and continuing our advocacy. So I do, frankly, out of concern for those that we're trying to get out, hesitate to speak more about this publicly, but it won't deter us from continuing our efforts, because this is really a humanitarian effort that Canada can't turn its eyes to.
You did seem to suggest this week that the amended NDP motion that was passed is impacting the work that you and others might be doing in terms of trying to get people out, because Israel didn't like that motion. They were very upset with it. Is that what you meant, that when Israel sees things like that happen inside Parliament, that there is some sort of retaliation?
Well, I do want to be clear in saying I did support the motion as amended. Yes. I think it is, as amended, a principled motion that states the position of the government of Canada. Otherwise, we wouldn't have supported it.
Sure.
But not naive enough to think that words don't have consequences. And Israel has been quite vocal about the potential consequences. And that can have a repercussion at the negotiation table. And I won't say anything more about that. But again, it's nice to stand up in the House of Commons and do all these motions, as well willing as they are. But we also have to realize that we're near negotiation rooms when we're trying to save lives. Our words do have consequences, and we can't be naive to that.